Hey guys, welcome to AITA Chronicles. Subscribe if you love chaotic Reddit drama. First story coming up.
Am I the asshole for skipping my brother's wedding because I wasn't invited to the engagement party? I, 28 male, have a twin brother. Growing up, we were inseparable, and until recently, I thought we were still very close. I was always more of a shy nerd, and he was an extrovert that played sports throughout our childhood and high school. But we spent almost all of our time together by choice. We went our separate ways when college came. He stayed local in Arizona, and I went to college in Portland. When I graduated, I stayed there because I fell in love with the city. My friends are here, my professional networks from internships were here, etc. But I always flew back home for holidays, events, birthdays, etc. My brother announced on Instagram that he and his girlfriend of 3 years got engaged. I was incredibly happy for him and texted him congrats. He mentioned they were planning to have an engagement party in 6 to 8 weeks, and I told him to let me know so I can book a flight to come celebrate. I was never told a date. If I brought it up with him or anyone in my family, they'd change the subject or say it's still being planned and confirmed. After a few weeks, I texted my brother to ask about the date because it must be getting close and I don't want to pay for a last-minute flight. No response. I asked my mom for details and she said, "It's not really an engagement party, just a small dinner with family. There's no need to come down for it." I eventually found out that it was, in fact, a big party. They rented out an entire restaurant for 4 hours, and there were about 80 guests. Family, friends, cousins, everyone. Everyone was told I couldn't make it. My aunt, who was like a second mother to me, texted me that she was very disappointed I couldn't make time to join, and I replied that I would happily have come, but I was not invited. Words spread quickly about my snub, and my parents and brother tried to say it was just a misunderstanding. That was almost over a year ago. Since then, I've tried to get to the bottom of why I wasn't invited. Over the course of months, it went from, "It was just meant to be a small gathering," to, "I don't know what happened, there must have been a miscommunication," to, "It's just a party, it's no big deal." I asked my brother if he was mad at me. I thought maybe his fiancé didn't like me. Even if she or he didn't want me there, why were my parents okay with this? This really wasn't like them. Christmas and Easter was awkward as hell because no one but me wanted to address the elephant in the room, and any conversation about anything was like small talk with strangers. When I visited in May for my sister's birthday, I left early after my sister said, "You moved so far away, it's like you're not really family anymore. You make everything feel so weird now." 9 months ago, I got the save the date announcement, and 6 months ago, I got the invitation to the wedding. I wasn't asked to be in the wedding party, which is fine and wasn't surprising at the point. My sister and younger brother were asked to be in the wedding party, so another snub. I also didn't get a +1 for my girlfriend I've been seeing for almost a year and a half. My sister, however, got a +1 for her FBW. So I decided I wasn't welcome, and I was probably only invited for optics and to play happy family. I didn't RSVP no since I knew that would cause a shit show. I just didn't go. The wedding was this past weekend. No one contacted me about missing the rehearsal dinner, so I guess even if I did go, I wasn't invited to that either, or expected to be there. I started getting calls and texts about an hour before the ceremony asking where I was, if my flight was delayed, how far along I will be, etc. And I ignored them. They stopped for a while during the ceremony, but started up again right after. I finally picked up my mom's call and she screamed, "Where the hell are you?" I replied, "In Portland, where you all prefer me to be." She said, "This is your brother's wedding. How could you embarrass us?" I answered, "It's just a party. It's no big deal, right?" It was probably the first time in my life my mother was speechless. After a few seconds of silence, I said, "Tell everyone I said hi," and I hung up. Now I'm getting calls and texts from everyone saying I was being petty and ruined the day. So am I the asshole here? I feel like I'm just matching their energy and dropping the rope. Am I the asshole for expecting my ex-girlfriend to move out after she broke up with me, even though she has nowhere else to go? I, 27 male, have been with my girlfriend Megan for 4 years, and we've lived together for 2 of them. We live in a house I inherited from my grandmother. Megan quit her job a while ago to pursue her master's degree full-time, since her bachelor's wasn't opening any doors. I've been supporting her financially and emotionally while she's been in school. To be clear, I never resented that. I wanted to support her goals and was proud she was pushing forward in life. Her program is intense, and she's even taking summer courses. I work full-time and also take care of the house, which means some things slip through the cracks. I cook, clean, and try to keep things in decent shape. It's not perfect, but I genuinely don't think it's bad. I'd comfortably have friends over without worrying about the place looking or smelling off. I'm not an amazing chef, but I know my way around the kitchen. But yeah, they're mostly basic dinners. The past couple of months have been hard. Megan's stress levels have been through the roof, and tensions between us have grown. She's been unhappy with how I clean or cook, saying I don't meet her standards. I get that she's overwhelmed, but I felt like nothing I did was ever enough. I still tried to be patient and supportive, but things hit a boiling point and we had a big argument. Megan broke up with me. It hurt, but I honestly think it was for the best. We were clearly not making each other happy anymore, so what was the point anymore? Here's the problem. Now that we're no longer together, I think it's fair for her to move out. She doesn't agree. She says she has nowhere else to go and that if she's forced to leave, she'll have to drop out of her program. Her mom and stepdad live the RV life, and she doesn't have friends who can take her in. She did receive a decent amount of money from her own grandmother when she passed, but she used most of it to cover her tuition. I know she wasn't blowing it. It really did go to school, but now she's tapped out and stuck. I get that this situation sucks, and I don't want to see her crash and burn, but I also don't feel like I should have to keep living with someone who broke up with me. I've already given her 45 days to figure something out, even though, legally, I'm only required to give her 30. She's now trying to say she wants to work things out, but to me, it feels more like panic and desperation than a genuine desire to fix the relationship. I don't hate her, but I don't think it's healthy for either of us to keep living together in this limbo. So, am I the asshole for expecting her to move out after she broke up with me? Am I the asshole for asking my parents how long it would take them to notice if I died, or would they even notice at all, after they ignored 6 hours of calls about me going to the emergency room? The title actually sums up pretty much exactly what I said to my parents, but there's so much context to go with that, and I'm really sorry in advance if this is crazy long. All right, so I'm the middle kid of 3. My older brother is 10 months older than me. My younger brother is 2 years younger. So we're 17, 16, and 14. My older and younger brother hate each other. They're always fighting and doing petty shit to each other. It drives our parents crazy and takes up a lot of attention. Or at least that's the excuse my parents use. Even before it got really bad, my parents always overlooked me more than my brothers. I was an easier kid and everything, but why does that mean it's okay to ignore me? When we were younger, it was smaller stuff. Like mom or dad would forget to ask me to pick out my treat at the grocery store, something each of us did whenever we went grocery shopping with our parents. And we'd circle back around to let me pick something once everything was paid for because we were normally at the checkout before my parents could listen to me say I was forgotten, or it took that long for them to realize on their own. Or another example is sometimes my parents would go up to order our food, and they'd forget my order and have to go back up and place it. Happened in drive-thrus too. But then it was ignoring/forgetting to help me with homework when my brothers needed help too, or if they argued. Forgetting stuff they had promised me because their focus was on my brothers. Forgetting we needed to go out and buy stuff for school, and that resulted in a few emails to my teachers to let them know I was going in without needed materials. It was also leaving me behind places because once my brothers started fighting more, they'd race off and not check if I was there. And it was forgetting 2 of my birthdays and remembering the next day and not even apologizing for it because I was so understanding and mature, and they would celebrate like it was my actual birthday. There were times in the last 2 years where they forgot they dropped me somewhere and never came to pick me up. If I was lucky, my best friend was there and his parents would drop me off at home. And sometimes they'd pick me up and feed me first because they'd be aware I was waiting a while to leave. Other times I had to call 5 or 6 times before they'd answer. In the past, I have brought up these incidents to them, and they always we really don't mean it, and we're just so overwhelmed with your brothers, and we'll do better. But it feels more and more like they don't notice whether I'm around or not, unless they get really tired of my brothers fighting, and I end up hanging out with one of them, which breaks the tension for a while. Then the other week happened. I was at my best friend's house, and I had an allergic reaction to something I ate. His mom drove me to the emergency room, and she was trying to call my parents. 6 hours. 6 whole hours of calls, and my parents weren't at work. They were home. She tried on her phone and on mine. When her husband left work, he went to my house and told my parents what was going on. It was only then, and 6 hours and 20 or 30 minutes later, that they left the house and they showed up at the hospital 7 hours after I went in. I had to stay in overnight, and I told my parents to go home because I was so mad and upset with them that they brought me no comfort. My best friend's mom stayed with me, which wasn't really allowed, but an exception was made because of how upset I was. My parents picked me up at discharge time, and they were being all caring and stuff, but it bothered me. Things were strained for about a week, and they told me they really needed to apologize. I said yeah, but it didn't mean anything, and the conversation went on from there. And I brought up how I was home late by 2.5 hours, and they hadn't noticed, and it took my best friend's dad literally going to the house to tell them. Then my brothers were brought up, and it was all just annoying. They swore that I was not the overlooked middle child, and I asked them how long it would take them to notice if I died, or would they even notice at all. After that really upset them, and they asked why I'd say it, and I told them I meant it. The conversation stopped then, but a few days after, my dad told me it felt like I went out of my way to hurt them, and I'm usually more mature than that. Am I the asshole for saying I owe my ex's wife nothing and being quietly glad my kids don't consider her their second mom? My 30F marriage to my ex 32M ended during my pregnancy with our son, who is now 8. We divorced formally when he was 2 months old, but we separated at the very beginning of the pregnancy and co-parented our daughter, who is now 10, throughout that time, as difficult as it was. After the divorce was over, things turned more sour, and we avoided each other except for exchanges. 2.5 years after our divorce was finalized, he introduced me to his then-girlfriend, now wife, 33F, at a custody exchange. At first, she seemed nice enough, and I had no problem with her. I even thought she was nicer than him. But something I didn't know at the time was she took offense to me handing the kids to my ex instead of offering her one or both of them. I found this out 2 months later when our daughter's preschool had their play, and she accused me of hogging my son throughout the performance and not giving her the chance to hold him. Then she brought up the exchange. She told me she was going to be their mommy too, and I needed to get over my selfish hogging of our children. And by our, she meant hers, mine, and ex's. My ex stood back and said nothing. I told her that I wasn't hogging anyone, and at the exchange, I did what I always do when the kids go to their dad. She told me I just didn't want to accept that soon enough I'd be number 2 mom, and maybe they'd eventually call me by my first name, and she'd be mom. After that, she was tense whenever we attended the same event, and the kids weren't exactly happy to see her, something my ex said was all my fault because I didn't offer to let her hold our son, etc. Then she reported me to CPS with several false allegations of abuse. Her claims were wild, and CPS cleared me of all wrongdoing. They said the report was anonymous, but then my ex's girlfriend told me it was disgusting that anyone could clear me and that she knew better, and then she said she'd prove I didn't deserve my kids. Following on from that, they booked their wedding on my custody time, and it was when I had plans for us prearranged.
I refused to cancel and told them to blame my ex, since he had the schedule and calendar same as me. We always had a shared one through an app that told us whose week it was and what plans that couldn't be changed were. My commitment was first. They kept the date and got married without the kids there, which I was hated for. His wife has been vile to me ever since. She makes disgusting comments about my appearance and has called me a prostitute many times. She tried to turn my ex's family against me, and when it didn't work, she tried to accuse me of parental alienation of the children. For years, I have heard that the kids aren't as bonded with her as ex would expect, or as they want the kids to be, and they only want me. X tried to get more custody as a result, and the judge told him there was no cause for an increase from 50-50 custody which we had from the beginning. X brought up the conversation again last month when we had an IEP meeting for our son. He told me that his ex's wife has been around the kids since they were very young, and she should be second mom to them, but they always correct him or her when they call her that, and they say she's not to others who call her their mom too. He told me I could be kinder to her and help with that. He said as a mom, it's my job to make sure all the kids' parents are respected and loved and treated well. And he told me she takes good care of our kids, so I owe her some help with this. I told him I owe her nothing, and to go back to those CPS allegations and realize I will never owe her or like her. Then, via the app, just a couple of weeks ago, my ex said he feels like I'm glad our kids don't call her mom or consider her their second mom. He told me I'm just being petty and an asshole when I could be thinking of the kids' best interests, and that saying I owe my wife nothing is a bad attitude to hold as well. I won't lie, I am crazy happy the kids aren't super into this woman. I have never discouraged it, and I always keep them out of drama the best that I can. And by that I mean I can't influence what they see or hear at their dad's house, but I am quietly super happy. X isn't wrong about how I feel. Am I the asshole for saying I owe his wife nothing and for being glad my kids don't consider her their second mom?
Am I the asshole for telling my husband I would not move without my name on the house? I, 32 female, bought the current starter home at age 22. My husband, 33 male, moved in about 3 years ago just prior to us getting engaged. I've always considered this to be our, and now our 15-month-old daughter's home, even though my husband has never financially contributed to the mortgage. We are looking to move to a larger house, not because we intend to have additional children, but because my husband wants a man cave as well as a work-from-home office. He also says he wants a large house to host parties, just like his childhood home. I support his need for his own space and also see this potential move as a way to help our daughter get into a better public school jurisdiction. Yesterday, my husband told me that when it comes to signing for the new house, it should be only his name on the deed. He believes he could qualify for a first-time homebuyer, and this would save money on closing cost. We would be using the equity in our current home, about $200,000, for a down payment in order to afford the new mortgage. I told him, as a woman, I need to protect myself and would not move without my name being included on the home. I told him it would be stupid of me to use the equity in the home I've lived in for 10 years and to not have my name on the new home. I mentioned that if something were to happen or if his feelings for me changed one day, that I would be left with nothing. He became very upset by me saying this. He said my thinking is flawed and I need to go to a therapist to work on why I think like this. I told him I don't believe my thought process on this is irrational or flawed, and that while I understood that he was offended by my statement, this was a non-negotiable for me. Additional background, my husband makes the same amount of money as I, and he pays the electric bill and half of daycare. He constantly talks about money and saving, and has made me cancel subscriptions like the gym in the past to save a quick buck. When our daughter needed surgery, his first thought was, well, how much is this going to cost? While mine was, is this surgery needed and safe? He grew up in a very wealthy family, and I grew up lower middle class. So, Reddit, am I the asshole? Update. I want to thank each of you for your advice and confirmation that I am not out of line in my thinking. I will be contacting a lawyer to set up a trust for my daughter. I will also work on having a will and power of attorney completed. I revisited the conversation tonight with my husband. He stated that the problem is that he feels like I need financial protection from him. He feels like he's not doing his job as a husband to make me feel secure enough. I let him know I appreciated his input and know he loves me, but that I would not be essentially handing over $200,000. I have told him that we should go to a couples therapist for an outsider's perspective, to which he replied that he doesn't want to talk about finances with a couples therapist, but that I should explore why I feel the need to financially protect myself. I have told him for the time being, we will have to agree to disagree as I will not be moving forward with his plan.
Am I the asshole making my GF cut off her new male friend because she made me cut off a female friend? A couple of years back, I made friends with a new coworker. She was pretty cool. Now, my GF at first did not have a problem with this, but she got uncomfortable with how much time my new friend and I spent on gaming. Admittedly, it was a bit much. My GF did straight up and told me she would not continue this if I continue this friendship. Honestly, looking back, I kind of regret it, but whatever. Recently, my GF met a new guy friend, and this friendship has made me uncomfortable. They don't hang alone, as far as I know, but they do drink together, which makes me uncomfortable. So I told my GF this, and she tried to reassure me, but this didn't change my feelings. I did bring up what she told me years ago and my old female friend. She told me she was very sorry for what she did. She told me that our relationship was still pretty new and that she didn't fully trust me back then. She told me that if this happened today, she wouldn't have asked me to cut off this friendship. FYI, I couldn't get in touch with my old coworker even if I tried. So that friendship is gone forever. I told my GF, fine, but regardless, if she wants me to stick around, she needs to cut off that friendship. I told her it's extremely messed up for her to claim she had changed her mind when she had to make a sacrifice. I told her I wanted to believe her, but she had to prove to me that she's not just saying this just because. She did agree to this half-heartedly. I don't know, I'd have never given her an ultimatum like this, and it felt wrong, TBH. Am I the asshole for ignoring my mom and refusing to make nice with my stepdad's son Harry, who bullied me throughout our childhood? I, 21 male, was 6 when my mom and stepdad met. My stepdad's son, Harry, was 7. My mom and stepdad dated for 2.5 years before they got married, and we lived together for 9 months before their wedding. Harry hated his dad dating my mom, and he hated me for liking his dad. He was a real asshole to me. My stepdad always corrected him and tried to keep him from hurting me, but I was miserable. I told my mom how miserable I was, and she told me it'd get better. When I said I didn't want to live with him anymore, she told me we had to because we were a family, and sometimes siblings don't get along the best, and it's okay for us to not be close. To name a few of the things I had to endure while living with Harry, he would spill water on or stain my homework, he broke a model I had finished for a class assignment, and he deleted assignments off the family computer when I finished them. He would shut doors on my feet or hands. He threw shit at me, but specifically my head. He called me a freak of nature all the time. When we went to my stepdad's family members' houses, he'd get his cousins to all gang up on and exclude me, and a few of them were still nice to me, but he threatened to leave them out if they spent time with me. He broke my Christmas gifts one year, smashed or ruined them all, and he got into big trouble for that, but he still taunted me that I got nothing. In high school, a teacher we shared took both our classes on an educational field trip, and he tried to get me left behind, and he sprayed me with water to make it look like I peed my pants. Again, that's a few things he did.
He was open about hating me, and he'd ignore me sometimes to make a point of it. Like one time, he hogged the salt because he saw I wanted it, and he refused to give it to me or answer when I asked for it, and he tried to stop my stepdad giving it to me. Harry would always get his friends to taunt me too. One incident with all of them made me lose a tooth, and as upset and freaked out as my mom was, she still stayed with my stepdad and made me live with Harry. He took a gap year after high school, so I didn't even get the freedom of him leaving for college, and that was another hellish year, and I had to do all my homework at friends' houses or the library in case he fucked with it. I started pulling away from my mom at like 15, and she noticed and tried to be all loving and sweet to me, but I wasn't okay with her. When I started college, I moved out. I packed all my stuff and refused to go back home. Mom told me not to react like I was, and Harry didn't even live with them full-time anymore. And she said we were both adults now and our relationship would improve. I told her I would never spend another second with him, and I said that did mean I would skip family holidays and such because there was no way I would agree to be around Harry again. I told her I blocked him everywhere and didn't care what happened, but nothing would make me share the same airspace as him again. My mom tried to act like we were good, but I pulled away more and started ignoring her calls and stuff. I don't go home for holidays. I refuse to attend anything that Harry's going to be at. I went to see my grandparents last week. Mom showed up to talk to me. She wanted to know why I was ignoring her and not visiting her and my stepdad. I told her she failed me and put her own wishes before me, my safety, my childhood, and I wasn't going to wipe it away because my stepdad was good to me. I told her I despise Harry, and I don't care if he grows into an amazing person someday. He will never be my family, and I will never let him back into my life. And I told her I won't start acting like we're okay either, because I am so mad at her. She left really upset, and my grandparents talked to me about stuff. Then my uncle texted me and asked what happened between me and Mom. And he told me I can feel like I do about Mom not protecting me better, but she's still my mom. And he also told me I lose out by refusing to make nice with Harry and be there for family holidays. I told him the holidays I have now are better than all the ones with Harry in them combined. I said I did not feel like I was missing out at all. He said it's so extreme because I have a huge family who loves me and wants to see me.
Am I the asshole for preventing my pregnant sister access to my food? My sister, 31F, is staying with me temporarily after leaving her husband. I, 30M, have a small apartment, but I let her move in because she had nowhere else to go, and she's 6 months pregnant. I wasn't very pleased about this situation, but she is my sis after all. The main issue has been food. I'm pretty disciplined about what I eat because I am in bulk stage and hitting the gym regularly. I portion things, label them, and plan for the entire week. But every other day, something's gone. Makes me crazy. She'll drink all my expensive shakes, polish off meals I've prepped for work, eat snacks I've saved for post-run, and even finish leftovers I was planning to turn into new meals. When I bring it up, she shrugs and says things like, "Cravings hit hard," or "hormones," or "you are being mean." I asked her to replace things she finishes, or at least ask before taking something, or help manage her own food for God's sake. She refuses to do anything about it. So, last week, I ordered a small mini fridge and set it up in my bedroom. It's just big enough for my meal prep, snacks, and drinks. I didn't make a scene about it. I just quietly started putting all my stuff there. She noticed 2 days later and got pissed. She said I was being childish, dramatic, and treating her like a thief. I calmly told her I was tired of my groceries disappearing and that this was the easiest way to avoid fights. Now she's sulking and has told our parents after her failed marriage, her brother is also alienating her, and she is just a burden for everyone.
My mom called and said pregnancy isn't easy, and especially for her situation. I don't think I'm being cruel. I'm still letting her live here rent-free, and I've even offered to order food or cook together, but I just want my food to be left alone. A part of me understands she is going through trouble, but at my expense? Am I the asshole? Am I the asshole for not waiting for my partner at the police station after he was questioned for something he did behind my back? My boyfriend, 28M, and I, 31F, are both from country A, where the currency is controlled but only loosely enforced. I work in a nearby country B and get paid in $B. One day, a random online reached out to my BF asking if we'd like to exchange $B for $A. BF asked me if I'd be interested. I had him inquire about the exchange rate, but since it was much better than the Google rate, I told him it was probably a scam and thought nothing more of it. A month later, I got a call from the police in country A saying they had detained my boyfriend for illicit foreign exchange and that I needed to come in for questioning. I excused myself from my work meeting and traveled for 2.5 hours back to country A, only to be told by the police that my boyfriend had gone ahead with the exchange without my knowledge, and the other party was indeed a scammer who was trying to launder money, hence why this was even on the police radar. I was questioned for hours about whether I'm an active scammer and if my work and income in $B were legitimate. When the police were finally done with my part, it was past 9 p.m. My BF was kept for more questioning, so I told him I needed to leave to catch the last train back to country B, as I had some important meetings the next day. Since my BF was technically a victim of the scam and the amount he exchanged was fairly small, he was eventually released without charges at around 1 a.m., as we were both expecting. However, now he's complaining that I didn't wait for him at the police station until he was released for something he did on my behalf, as I'm the one who might need $A. From my POV, I'm mad that he did something I explicitly told him not to do, which caused me to miss most of my workday with no notice. And in spite of this, I still traveled for 5 hours that day just to help clarify the situation, which showed plenty of support and care. Am I the asshole for not waiting for him to be released? Edit. Thanks for your responses, everyone. Just some additional context to commonly asked questions. 1. BF wanted me to wait for him to demonstrate I won't abandon him in crisis. 2. BF thought he was not gullible as he made sure the scammer wired money first and even waited for it to clear. 3. In many countries, the police have a lot more power and a lot less rules than what the US folks may be used to, so not going to the police when requested or not giving them answers are not viable options. 4. Thankfully, I do not have anything on my record other than I was being called in as a witness. And 5, he did not use my money, otherwise I would have known. He exchanged $B first, then exchanged it back for profit as the scammer offered good rates.
Am I the asshole for telling my niece her mother tried to give her away as a baby? I got into a huge argument with my sister last week. The argument had been simmering for a long time, as tension between us has been high for years. When I was 17, my sister had an accidental pregnancy, and when she told her boyfriend, he left her. Due to our religious family, she kept the baby, but once her daughter was born, she panicked. She didn't want to go through the legal troubles of adoption, so she asked that me and our mother took care of her kid. There was no legal custody, but it was an agreement made within the family. I essentially raised my niece from birth until she was 3, with help from my mother as she was working to support the new addition to the family. I dropped out of school and took care of her, fed her, changed her, and taught her how to walk while my mom was away at work. Then my sister met her now husband, cleaned her life up, and suddenly wanted her kid back. No warning. She moves back to home, says thanks, and starts being a mother. My niece is now 11 and doesn't remember all I and her grandmother did.
It's been a family agreement to forget this all happened until the argument. My sister made a petty comment during a fight where she implied since I lost my job recently, I can't handle responsibility. I snapped and told her she was lucky her daughter was too young to remember how she abandoned her. My niece overheard this and now wants to know what I meant. I outright said that her mother didn't think she could raise her and left her with me and grandma. Now my sister says I traumatized her daughter, and my mom says I should have kept the secret like we agreed. I think this secret couldn't stay kept forever. Am I the asshole? Edit. Hello, I'm here to give some more context and answer a bunch of the most common questions. When the argument happened, I had put my niece to bed hours ago. We were at my mother's house, and so no one knew she was going to come in. Secondly, after my niece was born, my sister moved states to get a job. Also, she was 20 and I was 17. And finally, in the aftermath, I said that we can't go back now since my niece already overheard us all talking. So, as a group, with her stepfather, we should get together to explain it better. But since the event, a week ago, my sister has been saying that we should blow over it and that my niece will forget if we don't bring it up again. I'm frustrated at this and at how she's now slating me alongside my mother. My mother believes I'm in the wrong for arguing with my sister in the first place, whereas I say she has no right to criticize me for losing my job when I lost my education to caring for her child. I'm trying to get in contact with my niece's stepfather to ask him for his opinion. Edit 2. Yes, I was asked by my mom to drop out of school, and I did so. I didn't go to college later. I had no intention of hurting my niece, but she had already overheard what was said, so I felt that keeping it from her now would just cause her confusion. I'm now trying to backpedal the best I can with the family's assistance to be able to properly explain the situation to her. But my sister and my mother both want to just pretend this never happened and hope my niece forgets as she grows up. Headed 3. I'm starting to wish I was clearer from the beginning. I said I was 17 when my sister had the accidental pregnancy. I meant that I was 17 when the baby was born.
My sister-in-law suddenly expects me to act like her kid's aunt, and I refused. My brother is also trying to fix our relationship, but I am not interested. Am I the asshole? I, 29F, have 2 older brothers, and this is going to be related to James, 34M. Sometime around 3 years ago, James met his now wife, Aria, 33F, and they got married the following year. Aria also has 2 kids from her previous marriage, but I'll come back to it later. Ever since they started dating, Aria has been very clear with her boundaries when it comes to our family. She claimed her previous marriage was a disaster because her ex-husband was a mommy's boy, her ex-IML was very involved in their lives, and she refused to have the same happen with James. James, I assume being in love with her and wanting to start a family, basically agreed with everything. So the result was him getting isolated from our family. My parents were never crazy. My mom was never an evil type of IML, and this can be confirmed by my other brother's wife, who has an amazing relationship with mom. To be honest, we would have expected more from James, at least to defend us a little bit in front of his wife or try to keep a closer relationship with us, but he didn't, so we spoke to him once, voiced our concerns about her being a controlling nightmare, and that was it. We left him do whatever he wanted. Ever since Aria joined our family, our relationship with them is disgustingly sterile and fake. We only see them for certain events like Christmas, Easter, and birthdays, and everything that comes from them is so formal, I guess. I don't know how to explain it, but they never share anything with us. The only thing they talk to us is small talk, like, how are you, how have you been, blah, blah, but that's it. A recent example that comes to my mind is that my brother got a big promotion, and somehow it slipped during a dinner we had. They never mentioned him getting that promotion. It was something like, yeah, now with my new role, my schedule changed a little bit. I tried to make a joke and told him, wow, good job keeping it a secret, bro. And Arya told me it was not a secret, but they are a private family and don't feel like disclosing financial information. Like, what the fuck? No one asked about finances or money. Arya's sister recently passed away, and now she's suddenly expressed that my SIL and I should be more involved as her kids' aunts.
I told her I am sorry for her loss, but I only am an aunt to my other brother's kids, not hers. She told me this is wrong because we are family, and I mentioned that I personally don't consider her or her kids my family. She is my brother's wife, her kids are my brother's stepkids, but that's it. And honestly, I barely consider James my family anymore since we are now only related by blood and nothing else. I am not going to take over a role that I don't want for people who I barely know. Apparently, my words affected James, who asked me if I mean what I said. I told him, yes, I mean it. He asked me what can he do to make it better. And I told him, I don't know, how do you fix 3 years of treating your siblings and parents like shit because of some strangers that entered your life in your 30s? He claims he's willing to try for us to go back to how things were, but I told him I am not interested. He can continue playing happy family with his wife and her kids. He doesn't need me for it, because I am not a clown to entertain his wife's kids when she feels like it.